Change is happening faster than at any point since the Industrial Revolution. IoT and automation have disrupted global supply chains. Financial regulations are constantly in flux, all while your customers expect better, more personalized experiences. To master this complex world, you need the right data, fast. So imagine if data integration was simpler. If every team could access the data they needed, as they needed it. You wouldn't just keep up with the pace, you'd set the pace. That's the vision of MarkLogic. Data integration, simplified.
Welcome everyone to MarkLogic World 2020, our first virtual MarkLogic World ever, and our biggest MarkLogic World ever. With this new format, we've condensed the content. Everything's going to run in short sprints. The next 10 minutes, my 10 minutes of fame. And then we have an exciting lineup of customers, partners, and MarkLogic engineers. We're excited by the opportunity to connect virtually, though I'm sad that we're not able to be together. In person, I'm missing all of you. There's no question we're in a unique time in history and a time where the world is changing by the hour. We have an unprecedented global health crisis on a scale no one imagined. I want to state my sympathy and my condolences for all of you who have suffered from this vicious virus. It's affected our employees and our customers. Many have lost loved ones, and it's a loss beyond comprehension. Additionally, I want to acknowledge the challenges we face as a society. I work closely with the California State University, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where I'm an alumni, and I think the school's president stated it well in a letter he published last month. These are his words. The deep and unattended wounds of long-held racism and inequality in this country have been laid bare before us as a society. While these are tumultuous times and unsettling times, we should not lose sight of hope for change. No society is healthy when systemic inequality is present. Our country has a lot of work to do. The tech industry, which to a large extent is representative of inequality, has a lot of work to do. And we, as a company, have a lot of work to do. The world is finally changing, and I look forward to a future that will be more equitable, inclusive, and just. Let us now transition to something that's completely different in nature and similarly minor by comparison. I want to dive into discussing the pressing data needs that data architects and developers are facing. We've all seen how critically important data is over the past few months. We're seeing how healthcare providers have leveraged data from countries affected earlier by the virus to forecast supply chain needs for hospital beds, for masks, for ventilators. Our own customers, such as Springer and Elsevier, have unlocked content and seen corresponding large surges in traffic as people research the virus. And of course, just think about the data being generated and managed as all of us work from home. Online shopping, meal delivery, telemedicine, telecommuting. Companies like Zoom, they've scaled incredibly quickly. And they were only able to do it because of the architectural decisions they made years ago. That's why they are a leader in their space and why they can handle change so fast. Across every industry, data management is changing faster than ever before. You may have thought that 2020 was going to be a normal year. I sure did. I thought I was well prepared. And of course, completely wrong. This meme sums it up pretty well for many of us. But to be serious, 2020 has been an unpredictable year in every way. As a result, it has dramatically impacted IT decision-making and the speed at which IT changes are taking place. McKinsey has stated that in the past 3 months, IT has made a 5-year leap in terms of tech adoption. So how are organizations going to be successful in this new reality? I see 3 trends affecting data plans for the future. First, organizations must centralize data management. Centrally managed systems are more reliable, more elastic, and ultimately provide the service levels that businesses need. Second, organizations must be able to deliver curated, durable data assets to every part of the business. Data assets must be governed and they must be secured. They must be harmonized and they must have context. And third, organizations need data agility with lower risk. They need access to data, and with access, they need the agility to analyze and operationalize their data and the ability to build transactional systems. The MarkLogic DataHub and our fully managed cloud service, MarkLogic DataHub Service, solves these strategic priorities. So what about the cloud? IDC says that cloud spending was expected to grow 6 times faster than general IT spending in 2020. That was before the crisis. Not surprisingly, given the challenges of shelter in place, we're seeing the acceleration of cloud adoption. Why is this? It's simple. The cloud is an enabler that delivers on-demand infrastructure. It's elastic, it's cheaper, and it's certainly easier to manage during a pandemic. So what happens when you combine the power and agility of the cloud and you centrally manage your data, curate it, make it into key data assets, and implement Agile data integration? You get a cloud data utility. Just like you turn on the tap to get water, you turn to a data hub in the cloud to get your data assets. You don't need to worry about the pipes, the infrastructure, or the cleanliness. You turn it on and consume durable data assets. That's the ultimate vision for MarkLogic DataHub Service, a fully managed data hub in the cloud and the foundation of a cloud data utility. As a data utility, you simplify data integration. You get the agility of the cloud to deliver your data how you want it, wherever you want it. And as a platform, you don't have to start with the cloud service. You can build and run a self-managed MarkLogic DataHub on premises or in the cloud. You have the freedom to start however and wherever you want. It doesn't matter what environment you're running in. It's still a MarkLogic DataHub. As with everything else about MarkLogic, we love providing flexibility. And with an easy path to the cloud, we think this ultimately speeds up cloud adoption. The reality is modernization is really hard, and sometimes it's not practical or possible to move your applications or your legacy systems to the cloud. But what you can do is get all your data in a data hub and move the data hub to the cloud. As a result of helping enterprises integrate their data and build the bridge from legacy to modern, we've seen massive interest in our data hub technology. I'm excited about this, and so are our customers. And the rate of adoption of DataHub Service is faster than any other offering I've ever seen in my career. Let's look at how a few of these customers are transitioning to the cloud today. Erie Insurance's main use case is for master data management. As they build their system, they're using the MarkLogic DataHub technology to bridge from legacy to modern, from on-premises to the cloud. Great American, another insurance company, they chose MarkLogic over Oracle, Informatica, and Hadoop. They built pipelines for operational purposes, consolidating 35 lines of business. And they built analytical pipelines, consolidating 47 legacy data marts and warehouses to deliver their data as a utility, ultimately servicing both the operational and analytical needs of the business. Republic Services is the second largest provider of waste management in the US. They worked with Deloitte to build a platform that I would describe as a 360-degree view of their trucks, tracking 16,000 trucks in real time, integrating it with weather data, truck GPS data, and employee data, all built on the DataHub service on AWS. How can you get started building your cloud data utility? Getting started with DataHub Service doesn't take a lot of time. Ask anyone that signed up. It's a cloud service. you can just start using it. Just click and go. But our sales and consulting team, they can help you design and think about how you want to run and build your data utility. To meet the need for speed, I'm excited to announce a new MarkLogic offering, MarkLogic Rapid Start. Rapid Start is a packaged offering that includes the cloud credits and the consulting services you need to get started. It's designed so that in just 8 weeks or less, you can have a production quality data hub with your data in it. Over that 8 weeks, our team will work with you to get your data loaded, curated, and accessible for BI reports and in a MarkLogic powered application. Think about that. You can have your data hub running in the cloud all before your kids go back to school. Before we hear from our next speaker, I want to leave you with some key takeaways. First, the end goal of every modern enterprise is to start delivering data as a utility so you can better harness the value of your data assets and make better business decisions. To go back to where we started the conversation, we're still living with a COVID-19 health crisis. Let's work together to get past this. I want to encourage you to work hard, keep yourself, your family, and your business healthy. Most importantly, let's work together to erase inequality in the world. For the next segment, we're going to demo a new research application that we recently launched. Thank you, and enjoy MarkLogic World.
Thanks, Gary. My name is Damon Feldman. I'm going to show you another exciting thing that we're doing at MarkLogic. It's really a distillation or an illustration of what Gary's been talking about, and it's very exciting. The Consolidated Coronavirus Research Hub. This is a data integration system that pulls together information that many people around the world have provided around coronavirus. People who provided publications for free, where normally you would need a subscription, and pre-publications, all kinds of good things. So we've pulled together a number of different data sources illustrated at the top. The one I'll talk about the most is publications. So we have a lot of information in the research area. We also have drugs, genes, proteins, and clinical trials. What we've done is pulled these together, integrated them. We've mastered the authors to understand who's really who, despite different spellings and so on. And then we've linked them together into a semantic graph. So to illustrate this, I'm going to type in a protein called ACE2. ACE2 is a protein on the surface of a cell, and without that protein, the coronavirus can't enter the cell. That's how it binds and enters the cell. Not all cells have it. As people realize that, we see that there's a huge surge in activity in the coronavirus pandemic timeframe on research and discussion of ACE2, as you'd expect. So we get a little bit of analysis right here to show this surge in interest. And I'm going to zero in on that. I'm going to look at the more recent information because let's say I'm a researcher and I'm looking for timely recent data around the coronavirus pandemic related to how this protein allows the virus to function. So the dates get me down to a couple hundred results, but I don't want to read 200 things. So let's say I drill in a little more and I go into the topics and I choose viral infection. So that's really going to get me down to the 6 things that are relevant to this. I could read these and if I like them, let me just open this one up in another tab. I could, within our own system, we allow you to read the abstract, and then for fair use purposes, we then click through to the full text on the source site. So let's say these are great things and I'm happy with this. What I can then do is move over to the semantic graph. This is going to give me the big picture about ACE2 and these publications. So what I see here are the same 6 publications in these light red dots, and I can get a little bit of information just by hovering over that. But it also gives me the surround, right? The information around each publication, which in this case is primarily what's talked about or discussed in the publication, who authored it. The green dots are the authors. The double helix in the orange color is a gene that's been mentioned. The red dots are proteins. Let's say I'm really interested in drugs. Here's a couple drugs that are possible candidates to treat coronavirus by interfering with the protein. So I'm going to drill into this and get the surround of this based on what's linked to it and relevant to it. So I get the pink dots, which are the papers, and those are done using our text relevance algorithms. And then we'd use a purely semantic algorithm with Sparkle to get these little, I think there's syringes or test tubes, which are clinical trials. So there's a 48-week virological response study for the drug. And we also can see here from an ontology, or XNorm ontology, information about the active ingredients. So we've put a lot of information together, displayed it all on this one screen. Let's say this is great, and I look at some of these, maybe I read the articles, and this is really relevant, so I'm going to tag it for bookmarking with that little tag symbol. And I'm also going to tag this drug. I could also dive into the other drug, which was mentioned here, which I've lost track of. Where is that? It's over here. And add that as well. So I'm going to add those to my workspace. I'm going to call it ACE2 drugs. And that's going to keep this information for my later reference to share with a colleague and to allow discovery on the graph. I've actually augmented the graph by creating this workspace, and the things I do are now accumulating within this workspace. In fact, this red briefcase full of stuff, this is somebody else's workspace about ACE2 genes and proteins. If I double click into that, I'll see more information. That was added to my graph because it's linked to the things I'm searching for through the semantic linkages. When I expand it, I see this other person's information that even without their direct involvement, they're sharing it with me. They shared it with the community by creating the workspace, and now it becomes discoverable if it's a public workspace. So that's great. So I've discovered some information, maybe new authors and genes. The other way I can discover information is click this box to invoke a machine learning artificial intelligence algorithm. This is a graph connectivity algorithm that analyzes the semantic graph and figures out what's tightly linked to what I'm already looking at. Right? I'm already looking at these proteins. Well, here's publications that talk about these proteins and this topic, viral infection and dipeptidase. So this might be relevant to me, and I want to read up on that. In addition to those papers, here's something which, if you're following coronavirus, you may have found that ribavirin is known to be a promising treatment for coronavirus. So here, if I didn't know that, I would have discovered it on the graph through the link analysis and graph algorithms. So that's really nice. So that's what I wanted to show. This is for pharmaceutical data, and we're providing this as a public service, so you'll get a link to this and you can use it yourself. And of course, we could do this for anything. We can put any kinds of entities or types up here. We may use this for supply chain. We can use this for human resource, people management, human services, and programs and services, and medical and insurance claims, all kinds of things. This one's for pharmaceutical. And the essence of it is to pull in many different kinds of data, integrate them all together, master the data. So this Clara Barrios, who's an ACE2 expert, has been consolidated from C. Barrios and misspellings and other mentions. So we can consolidate and clean up the data and then make it available in a graph format so that everybody can see what's related to what and how it all works together. Here's the author's view. So thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to MarkLogic World 2020. I'm Ken Krupa from MarkLogic. I'm here with Jerry Grenier from IEEE. If you work in technology, you should know about IEEE. They've been around a long time. I love their tagline, advancing technology for humanity. Talk about a mission statement. So, Jerry, welcome. Welcome to MarkLogic World.
Well, great to be here, Ken. Thank you for inviting me to MarkLogic Virtual World 2020. It's always a pleasure to be here and talk about the great things that we're doing at IEEE publishing-wise.
Now you're looking to the cloud, and turns out we've got some capability, a service called DHS, and it looks like you're making that journey, or at least looking into the product. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, Ken. Yeah, so one of the challenges I had in introducing the semantics to upper management at the IEEE has been cost and return on investment, right? Semantics is sort of a almost an ambiguous thing, and trying to explain it to someone before seeing it had been difficult to me. And the question always asked me was, what's our return on investment? And I kept saying, wait, you'll see it. But I started thinking about, okay, what will this cost for me now to put into production? So we run a big stack of MarkLogic behind IEEE Explore. I thought that the best way to move forward would be to experiment with DHS, take advantage of MarkLogic's DHS offering, for 6 primary reasons: cost, eliminate any sunk capital investment right now. I just didn't want to spend another, any significant money in licensing costs, machine costs. Although we manage the Explore MarkLogic instance in our own AWS cloud, it's still management costs and time costs. Second thing, scalability, flexibility that it offers us. I don't know how popular the semantic service will become. How do I scale it? How do I build a stack? Well, DHS offers me that simple, put it up there, and as it scales up, no worries. Automatic software upgrades, no need to worry about that. Security, it eliminates some security concerns and costs for us. Data backup, disaster recovery, all of this would have cost me an extraordinary amount of money and would have been harder for me to make my business case for the semantic server. So what we're doing is running the service in the DHS cloud. It is an active project with the MarkLogic Professional Services. I believe we're scheduled to launch sometime in the next 8 weeks.
Right.
And then run our semantic service as an API service to IEEE Explore that will query the semantic server for information, as well as we thought about creating products to our end user customer base to access by API the triple store and find those facts that are hiding in plain sight from everybody else.
That's great. I love cost. You started with that. You mentioned a lot of things about reducing friction. And then, it's a safe environment where you not only feel like your data is secure, but you don't have to make that big upfront investment. I love that. It's like, instead of saying, okay, we're going to embark on this project, let's get all the equipment we need or that we think we're going to need, buying to some future peak that is just guesswork. You're like, well, let's just get started. And then on top of it, it's a hybrid architecture you're talking about, which is really great because, you're taking that journey in a stepwise fashion. You're trying out this piece of it. And I think that's exactly what, why people are jumping towards the cloud. So I have to ask you then, and it's a 2-part question, and you could answer it, all at once. It might be one and the same. The first is, so what do you see on the horizon for IEEE? Because you talked about some of the things that might be happening next, but if you went into your crystal ball, what might some of those things be? And then the second is, you're making this cloud journey as you're trying to guess what's on the horizon. What kind of advice could you give to other folks making their cloud journey?
Our journey with MarkLogic has been evolutionary, right? So this is just another step in that evolutionary process. So hopefully we'll learn, the pluses and minuses, and I'm hoping there aren't too many minuses of MarkLogic DHS cloud. And eventually the plan is to move that IEEE Explore stack that's currently running in our own managed cloud to the DHS cloud, MarkLogic managed DHS, and to the advice that I would give to anyone considering DHS, again, going back to the 6 reasons that I mentioned earlier, analyze the cost of doing business today. And what that cost might look like tomorrow if you're in a DHS environment. Is it less than you're paying now? Is it as much? Is it more? So again, back to those 6 reasons: cost, scalability, automatic software upgrades, security, disaster recovery, data backup. Just make that careful analysis, and maybe come up with a small project if you're not completely comfortable, and experiment, create a pilot, gain some internal support for a greater dive into DHS. If you're if in this day post COVID-19, watching expenses, move slowly, build a case, and then go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, no, that is great, and I appreciate that. And you highlighted a number of things that people forget about. You talked about things that people say, oh right, yeah, then there's backup and all this other stuff.
Right.
But knowing that it's taken care of, and that you can focus on the business problem and just getting things done. And you talked about starting slowly, but in a way, it allows you to get started more quickly by taking a smaller bite, which is an interesting dichotomy there. And it's kind of what people want to do. They don't want to take the big bite, but they want to take a small bite, and they can take that small bite right away. And that's really powerful. And the fact that you're doing it, having done business with us for such a long time, it validates a lot of what we're doing, because quite frankly, we get these requests from folks like yourself, from you and our other customers. So glad that we're delivering, or we seem to be delivering on the goods. So Jerry, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate those anecdotes. I think we could go on for another hour at least, and we may just have to do that off camera. That's fine.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks again, and thank all of you for listening. And feel free to take a look at some of the other videos we have, and any other stuff that Jerry's got cooking at IEEE. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Hello everyone, this is Adrian Carr with MarkLogic, and today I'm very excited to be with Sriram Potakuchi from Republic Services. Welcome, Sriram.
Hi Adrian, thank you.
So Sriram, can we start off you telling us a little bit about Republic Services and your role there?
Of course. Thanks for having me. With Republic Service, I work for Republic Services. We are second largest provider of non-hazardous solid-based collection, transfer, disposal, recycling, and energy services in the United States. And I'm a director of enterprise data at Republic Services.
Very good. And so you're now a MarkLogic customer. So what are you using MarkLogic for?
So we are using MarkLogic for a couple of use cases, and we strongly believe in fit for purpose. And one of the use case that we're using MarkLogic for is what we call knowledge articles. And this knowledge articles has discrete data elements and also unstructured content. So MarkLogic fits the purpose really well, where we have the ability to interact with the data store as if it's a relational database, and also leverage the ability to store unstructured content and be able to work with it, do mass updates, manipulate the data, and things like that.
That's a great use case. Did you say there's a second one?
Yeah. So the second use case we're talking about is we're working on is the consolidation of customers, and we have customer information in multiple systems and different structures and things like that. So we're leveraging the power of MarkLogic to bring customer contacts and customer information, relevant customer information, into one data store, so we can make decisions from that.
Wow, that's a great use case. So a kind of customer 360-degree view of the customer. And so you're actually using MarkLogic DataHub Service in the cloud. And how is that going? Why was that the right choice for you?
No, thank you. Absolutely. I think DataHub Service was the right choice for us because, for one, we can focus on application development rather than the infrastructure, right? It's completely managed from an infrastructure standpoint. So it gives us the ability to focus on application development, data engineering, and leveraging MarkLogic to drive business outcomes and business value. And that's the primary reason we chose MarkLogic DataHub Service to start with.
That makes perfect sense. MarkLogic does behind the scenes while you work on adding value. So what's next? What's in the next horizon for you?
Yeah, like I said earlier, we have so many use cases and business problems that we are solving every year, and we have a few use cases that we're thinking about. And one of the use cases we're talking about is perhaps using MarkLogic in some operational hub capacity where we collect information quickly, we ingest information into the MarkLogic Hub Service framework, and we distribute this information for either downstream systems, data lake, and or making real-time decisions, business decisions. So that's one of the use cases we're thinking about. The second one we have started thinking about is mastering some of that information while we are collecting this information and curating this information. So those are a couple of use cases we have been bouncing around.
That's wonderful. Well, Sriram, I would like to thank you for your time. I must say we're very proud to have Republic Services as a MarkLogic customer. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Doug Myers. I'm the Chief Information Officer at Suffolk Construction. Suffolk Construction is one of the largest construction companies in America. We take on some of the most complex projects in the country, and we find ways to deliver value for our clients and help make these amazing visions a reality.
I'm Jit Kitchen. I'm the Chief Data Officer and EVP for Suffolk Construction. Construction is well known as one of the least digitized industries, but this is changing. People see the value that digitization can bring to construction, and people see the value that data can bring to construction.
I was drawn to Suffolk by its vision of transforming the construction industry and leveraging data in a way that no other construction company had done.
We're always pushing ourselves to be innovative, to do things differently, and so we're constantly seeking new ways to build better. What we set out to do is to put in place a solution that would allow us to ingest data from multiple systems, help us keep master data clean, and also allow us to harmonize data across these systems so we can get a holistic view of the project end to end, from the conception of the project, estimating, planning, proposal budgets, proposal schedules, through to where we actually ended up in the actual performance of the project.
Now we're using data and technology, finding efficiencies in the schedule, finding conflicts in the design in the virtual world before it's built in the physical world. Suffolk wants nothing less than to disrupt the entire construction industry. Other industries have gone through it. They've seen how data and technology can really change everything. And we want to be at the forefront of that.
In 1898, British politician Joseph Chamberlain gave a speech to the Liverpool Conservative Club. In this speech, he famously said, "We are living in interesting times." I never remember a time in which our history was so full, in which day by day brought us new objects of interest and new objects for anxiety. From this statement evolved the now famous Chamberlain family curse, "May you live in interesting times." Well, we are indeed living in interesting times. What felt like a road straight to the horizon has become a twisty set of curves with no visibility beyond the next corner. What felt like a journey along a clear route to a clear destination where we could plot the course and easily gauge our time of arrival has become an expedition into the unknown as we make our way through uncharted territory. Uncertain times are times of rapid change. Last year at MarkLogic World, Len Hardy from Northern Trust talked about how the pace of change is accelerating. Len, if you're listening, that might have been the understatement of the year. These changes present both threats and opportunities, and sometimes it's hard to know which is which. Some of these changes will be temporary, but some are likely to stick. Which ones do we need to react to? Our crystal balls are cloudier than ever. Here in California, we've now allowed major sporting events, but without fans in the stands. In Orlando, the NBA is planning to house its season at Disney's ESPN Wide World of Sports complex, and players would live in the hotels and play at the complex without fans. But can teams perform well without their fans cheering them on? Many teams don't think so. In Denmark, a soccer team is trying to solve this problem by experimenting with virtual fans. They invited 10,000 fans to a giant Zoom meeting. The fans' shouts and screams were piped into the stadium's loudspeakers, and their faces were projected as a giant video wall. Sign of the times, or face of things to come? With people staying at home due to the pandemic, there's been an uptick of car sales entirely online. You can now shop, complete the paperwork, take delivery without ever leaving your house. What will happen when restrictions are lifted? I'm not convinced that car buyers will be eager to get back to that dealership experience, and neither is Mike Jackson, CEO of AutoNation. Jackson is convinced that online is where the industry is going. This is an inflection point, he says, a strategic shift, and it's not going back. Everything has changed so quickly: how we shop, how we meet, how we worship. With all these changes, some have started to refer to times as recent as a few months ago as the before time, like the time before the apocalypse in the 1979 film Mad Max. Will we ever get back to the before time? Is right now the new normal? If not, what is? And when will it happen? We don't know. What we do know is that charting a course through uncertainty is not like driving a straight and well-paved road. You need a different strategy, a different set of capabilities. Many customers I speak with are putting aside or even tearing up their playbooks and having to address threats and leverage opportunities in real time. For these organizations, now more than ever, the order of the day is agility. So, what is agility? Basically, it comes down to quick decisions and rapid action. And in today's world, that means having the right data where and when you need it. It means treating your data as an asset that can be brought to bear at a moment's notice to solve a new problem you just found out about, or to take advantage of a new opportunity you just discovered. But it's not enough to have data. You have to be able to make sense of that data. It has to be curated and organized and fit for purpose. In the words of William Farr, facts, however numerous, do not constitute a science. Like innumerable grains of sand on the seashore, single facts appear isolated, useless, shapeless. It is only when compared, when arranged in their natural relations, when crystallized by the intellect, that they constitute the eternal truths of science. When he wrote that in 1837, Farr was a clerk at the UK General Register Office. He'd been hired as a temporary worker to help handle vital statistics data for the census. By 1840, Farr's analysis of these vital statistics led to what is now known as Farr's laws, which describe the now famous epidemic curve that we're all trying to flatten today. Farr's work informed and was informed by the work of another Victorian-era data scientist, John Snow, who used what we would now call contact tracing, along with geospatial analysis, to trace the source of an 1854 cholera outbreak to a single water pump on Broad Street. By comparing the death rate from that pump to that of another that was fed by a different water company, John Snow determined that cholera was caused by a waterborne germ, in the process inventing the field of epidemiology. In the Victorian era, data was mostly tabulated, aggregated, charted, and analyzed by hand. Even so, it's amazing what a Victorian-era data scientist could do with the limited data he had available. Today, with the global impact of coronavirus and the constant flow of inconsistent data from every country and every state, you'd think it would be impossible for today's epidemiologists to integrate, aggregate, and analyze this data by hand. But surprisingly, that's exactly what they're being asked to do. On June 3rd, the New York Times published an article on problems that plagued the CDC's response to COVID-19. The number one problem was, and I quote, crappy data due to aging data systems and manual data integration. As the virus began to spread in the United States, the CDC's response was hampered by an antiquated data system, relying on information assembled through phone calls, faxes, and thousands of spreadsheets attached to emails. They could not produce accurate test counts, demographic information on confirmed cases, or even tallies of deaths. The overall result was an agency that had blind spots at just the wrong moment. Or, as Maryland's Deputy Health Secretary Fran Phillips put it, we got crappy data. This is a classic data integration and sharing problem. These problems have traditionally been very hard to solve, especially when they involve sharing data across many systems from many agencies in many states and around the world. It's the same problem the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services had when they came to MarkLogic to help with Obamacare. It's the same problem we've solved hundreds of times for hundreds of customers in dozens of industries. Aging data systems that work the way they work are hard to leverage or repurpose in a time of crisis. To do that, you need an agile data infrastructure that puts the data and its management in the hands of the people who know the data best. But how do you achieve agility in your data infrastructure? I mean, the terms data management infrastructure and agility don't typically sit well together. That's because traditional data management infrastructure requires rigid schema that takes a lot of upfront design and tends to be specific to its use case. And then building out a system on top of that schema takes forever. And once you have that built, you can't use it for anything it wasn't designed for. So every new use case takes a lot of time and effort for DBAs and developers to understand what you need and then design, build, and deliver it. And if you succeed, at best you've managed to create yet another data silo. An agile data infrastructure lets your subject matter experts, data analysts, business decision makers, data scientists, data stewards, security experts collaborate with each other and interact directly with your data to enhance it with their expertise or leverage it to make key business decisions. They shouldn't have to do a huge IT project just to get the data they need when and how they need it. Earlier, Damon Feldman demonstrated an application John Snow and William Farr would have absolutely loved. He showed how MarkLogic leveraged the agility of the MarkLogic DataHub service to repurpose an application designed for pharma research into one that makes critical data available to help researchers fighting the coronavirus epidemic. How did the MarkLogic team do that in a few weeks when the CDC, with all its resources, still hasn't solved this problem? The answer? Agility. Agility at the data layer to leverage new data and present it in new ways, quickly and easily. Agility at the infrastructure layer to spin up new compute and storage resources and environments on demand in minutes. Agility in the project to let people who are close to the data and understand both the data and the business participate directly. Let's talk about each of these in turn. In previous MarkLogic World keynotes, I've described how MarkLogic's flexible schema, powerful indexes, government-grade security, enterprise reliability, and strong governance capabilities provide agility for your data without sacrificing and, in fact, improving governance. MarkLogic is the foundation for a powerful, robust, yet agile data infrastructure that really can produce business results in weeks versus years. And the Data Hub pattern and tooling makes it that much easier to access that power and build your hub quickly. I'm not going to repeat all the reasons why MarkLogic's technology is uniquely agile. With the launch today of MLTV, it'll be very easy for you to find those previous keynotes so you can check them out for yourself. But there is one important concept that's central to our approach that I want to spend a few minutes on here, and that's the concept of an entity model. Because it's the entity model that enables the hub to become, over time, a durable data asset for your organization. To understand the role of the entity model, let's first talk about traditional data integration approaches. At the end of the day, data integration projects are about taking data from many siloed sources and providing that data to operational or analytic uses. The data comes with a model from its source systems. For example, data coming from an ERP system comes modeled in a way that's specific to that system and optimized for that system's purpose. You can't tell the ERP system to change the way it models, stores, and manages data just to make it more convenient for you to reuse it. You have to accept that data as it is. We call the model coming from the source system the source model. Similarly, every use for data also needs to consume that data in a particular way. If you're putting data into a data warehouse, that warehouse has a format and a schema that the data has to conform to. If you're sending customer profile data to a web page, that web application is going to need that data probably as a JSON object. If you're analyzing data in a BI tool, most likely you'll need to get that data into a table of rows and columns. We call the model that's needed to serve the use case the consumption model. So if you think of the data integration problem as taking many source models and transforming them into many consumption models, it's a very hard problem to solve. There's a lot of work you need to do to massage that data into a form that's fit for purpose, and every time something changes, or a new consumption model needs to be added to serve a new use case, you have to redo a lot of that work throughout the whole system. It's also hard to track how data got from these multiple sources through all those transformations to those multiple consuming systems. In a MarkLogic DataHub, we solve this problem by abstracting the source models from the consumption models with a third model, which we call the entity model. Think of the entity model as a neutral model, designed not for a specific use case, but to best represent how you think about your data in your business. This third model acts as a shield, protecting upstream and downstream systems from the impacts of change. So if one day you have a new source model or your source model changes, you can plug the new source model into your entity model without having to change any of the downstream systems that rely on data from your hub. And because the entity model is organized around the way you think of your business, rather than around any particular data use case, it's the ideal place to govern the data. That is, to define what this data is and to attach metadata that can describe your security, access, lifecycle, and other policies. And of course, because of MarkLogic's flexible schema and indexing, you don't have to spend years figuring out the perfect entity model for all your use cases. You can start by making a simple model that solves your most pressing business problem, and then you can grow and refactor the model from there, all while abstracting upstream and downstream systems from changes in the model. That's where the agility comes from. So the flexibility and adaptability MarkLogic brings to the data is key to providing the business agility you need. But having the most flexible database in the world isn't enough. If you're waiting months to be able to procure, rack, and configure the infrastructure required to run it, you can't be agile. And this is where the cloud really shines. What used to take months now takes minutes as you spin up infrastructure on demand. You can run MarkLogic in any cloud using that cloud's infrastructure as a service, and using cloud infrastructure can significantly accelerate your projects. But you can get even more agility by running MarkLogic's DataHub Service, a platform service offering from MarkLogic that lets you spin up a complete managed DataHub environment in minutes without having to know how to manage, configure, and administer either the infrastructure or the database. You don't have to spend months specifying, ordering, and racking hardware, optimizing storage, and generally dealing with the infrastructure issues involved in providing the platform for your DataHub. In just minutes, you can spin up a fully provisioned DataHub service that goes beyond infrastructure to give you a best practice configuration that separates compute from storage to allow these to scale independently. And DataHub Service automatically scales your infrastructure for you, giving you independent scalability for ingestion and curation activities, operational use cases, and analytic use cases, all at a predictable, low cost. So the MarkLogic DataHub is the most agile data platform, and DataHub Service brings you that platform as a service, so you can be agile in deploying, configuring, and managing a MarkLogic DataHub. But spinning up an empty DataHub in minutes, as great as that is, doesn't get you all the way to a business result. You still need to load data and configure curation activities to enrich, harmonize, master, and make that data fit for purpose. And once that data is curated, it needs to be accessible to your business decision makers as quickly as possible. Many data infrastructures, even in the cloud, make you understand how the data in them is stored and write code to extract that data and present it in a useful way to your business. Data lakes are notorious for this. As a result, even when infrastructure is there and data is available, the time to results for many data projects is still too long. Think about it. If your data experts need to translate all their expertise into requirements for IT developers, and then wait for those developers to implement a project that meets those requirements, not only does this take time, but a lot of things get lost in translation and frequently don't turn out the way you expect. Wouldn't it be much better if your experts could work together directly with the data, enhancing and enriching it with context based on their expertise. Your developers could then focus their efforts on extending and customizing the data platform to make it more powerful for these experts to use. And what about your business users, looking for data sets that can answer their questions and drive good decisions? Rather than finding data from a limited number of pre-curated data sets in a catalog, wouldn't it be better to let them shop the universe of curated data to generate exactly the data set they think will answer their questions, and then extract it directly into their tool of choice for further analysis? In this model, instead of looking like this, your data integration projects look more like this, where your experts collaborate with each other and with the business users of the data to quickly source, curate, and provide data as needed. In the process, building up a durable data asset of curated data where business decision makers can shop for the data they need, and data stewards can be confident that the data is fit for purpose and well-governed. Today, I'm excited to introduce the newest capability of MarkLogic DataHub Service, DataHub Central. Hub Central provides a collaborative, self-service experience for continuous data integration to create, explore, and share consistent and fit-for-purpose data assets. It's designed for your data experts to work directly with your data so they can build your data hub without writing any code. MarkLogic has never been easier to use than it is today. DataHub Central is powerful out of the box, but it's also extensible. So while your data experts are using Hub Central to build the hub, your developers can write reusable components that extend and customize the tools to make them more powerful for your data experts to use. And for the first time ever, Hub Central allows your business users direct access to the data in the hub with a powerful search capability that lets them discover what data is available and shop for the exact data they need to solve their business problems. These data sets can be saved and shared and reused with other tools like Power BI and Tableau, all with the governance and access control enforced in the data hub itself. So let's walk through an example of how DataHub Central empowers your data experts to work together to solve business problems. Before we get into the details, let's paint the picture. Sunrise Insurance is a mid-sized insurance company with two lines of business, home and auto. These lines of business are managed independently, so they run pretty efficiently and they can respond to trends in their individual markets. But as often happens, this independence has resulted in a poor customer experience. Customers complain of having to deal with different systems and processes when looking up or updating information or when making claims. Sometimes they even get cross-sell solicitations to buy products that they already have. They have to call a different number or get transferred to a different division to get answers on their home policy than their auto policy. It seems like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing most of the time. To fix this, Sunrise needs a 360-degree view of their customers so that everyone is working off the same information. But instead of doing a multi-year project before they can see any value, Sunrise has decided to build a MarkLogic Data Hub, which lets them focus on getting value quickly and then building on that value iteratively over time. With GDPR in the European Union and now the California Consumer Privacy Act, it's more important than ever that Sunrise have a handle on what customer data they have. So the first project they've decided to tackle is creating a single customer profile so their employees can view and update customer information in one place for all lines of business. A key feature of Hub Central is that it's designed to be used directly by your data experts. That means your team will use it to collaborate on building your data hub, each providing his or her own expertise. To illustrate this, let's meet our cast of characters. Meet Belinda, the business analyst. Belinda helps the business make data-driven decisions. She's an expert user of Excel and a variety of BI tools, and maintains a set of reports that the business uses to make decisions and evaluate the results. Belinda is the go-to expert whenever there's a new decision that could benefit from some data analysis. Belinda knows what data she needs, and she knows what to do with it when she gets it. But to do her job well, she needs quick, reliable access to relevant data, and that's sometimes hard to find in her organization. Next, we have Stewart. Stewart is a data architect and a data steward. He's responsible for defining and governing the logical data model for the company. In other words, how the company thinks about the data that's important to them, things like customers, policies, and claims. He's also responsible for ensuring that the data is well governed and that the company's security and policy rules are enforced as data is used for various purposes throughout the organization. Stewart understands data well, but he's not an expert in how data is physically modeled in the source systems, like the company's ERP system. That role belongs to Sara, our systems analyst. She's intimately familiar with what data exists in various operational systems in her organization. She knows how that data is represented in those systems and how it's used and managed there. She also knows how to connect to those data sources and extract raw data from them. Each person has a piece of the puzzle, and all will need to work together to solve it. But they can all use DataHub Central to work together on the solution. Let's take a look.
To get started, Stewart meets with Belinda to understand what needs to be in the combined customer profile, at least for the first iteration. They decide to keep it simple at first and expand the profile with additional information as needed. So for now, they just want to focus on contact information like name, address, and phone number, and policy numbers for any policies the customer has. Stewart navigates to Hub Central, and instead of taking notes in email, working with Belinda, he sketches out the requirements directly in the tool. This will become the definition for the Sunrise entity model. This entity model will combine and govern the source data and make it available to the various downstream systems, so everyone can work off the same model to produce views of the data that work for them, no matter what their use case. The entity model is what makes a MarkLogic DataHub a reusable, durable data asset for the company. Once that's done, Stewart asks Sara to take a look at the model and see what data we have that can provide this profile information. Sara can sign in and view the model, but she's not authorized to update it since Stewart owns it. Because she knows the source systems and the source data well, Sara knows that we have email addresses for customers, in the auto database at least. So she suggests that we add email to the model as well. While Stewart adds the email field, Sara doesn't have to wait. She loads some sample records from the auto policy system and looks at how they might map to the new model that Belinda is looking for. She can see the source data, which was loaded as is into the DataHub, and compare its model with the target entity model. She can use this tool to plan how to map the data from the source to the entity model that Stewart and Belinda are looking for. Rather than write up her findings in an Excel spreadsheet, she can work directly in Hub Central. Hub Central provides dozens of built-in functions she can use, but the function library is extensible, so if she needs a mapping function that is not included, she can have her IT department provide one for her. This is a great example of how Hub Central lets everyone focus on where they add the most value. Sara can test out her mappings as she goes, scrolling through her sample data to see how the mapping functions would execute against her samples. When Stewart is done adding the email property to the model, Sara can quickly refresh the tool and immediately see and map the new field. Hub Central makes it easy for data experts like Stewart and Sara to work together without having to wait on one another. Once Sara is happy with the mappings, she shoots an email to Belinda to have her check out the work in progress to see if it's what she expects. Belinda can view the source data and mappings and test the results, but she can't edit or update the mappings because that's not her role. Hub Central has granular, role-based permissions for viewing or editing, so Sunrise can control who can see and do what in the tool. This is the first time Belinda has actually seen the data that's available, and she can see that there are makes, models, and model year information for the autos in the policy data. She doesn't need that info now, but she'll keep that in mind so that she can request it later if it's useful. She also sees some demographic information, and she thinks that might be useful for some analysis she's doing, so she asks Stewart and Sara to add that to the model. While Stewart is updating the model, Sara loads records from the home policy system. This is an older system, and the best way for her to get the data out is as a giant CSV file to batch load it. She extracts some sample rows and loads them into Hub Central to look at what's available in this system. The home system has less interesting data than the auto system, but it does have two addresses, an insured asset address and a separate billing address. Sara asks Belinda which one she wants, and Belinda asks her to use the billing address, but to include the insured asset zip code in the policy information. They also decide they need a new property to designate the policy type. Once again, Stewart updates the model, and Sara maps the data. With the model revised and data mapped, Sara runs a sample batch of 1,000 records each from home and auto, and then asks Belinda to take a look. Belinda opens up the Hub Central Explorer and can search and view the combined customer records from the home and auto systems. Hub Central Explorer uses the model Stewart developed to present the data in ways that make sense, and to let Belinda search, slice, and dice the data by facets. She's amazed. This is the first time she's ever been able to do that, and even though it's just 2,000 test records, it's pretty cool. She can save her queries and export the data from them into Tableau or Excel, so she's really looking forward to using the tool once it's fully populated. With Hub Central, Belinda collaborated with other data experts at Sunrise Insurance to build a data asset that she can use to self-serve the data she needs whenever she needs it. She didn't need to involve the IT department and get in an application development queue. And when she needs new data, she's confident she can work quickly with Sara and Stewart to add just what she needs while being able to leverage the work they've already done for new use cases.
You just saw how easy it is to do a data integration project with MarkLogic DataHub Service. With Hub Central, the DataHub Service lets you self-serve more than just your data integration infrastructure. It lets your data experts self-serve their business value. Now, Sunrise has integrated profile information that their customer service representatives can use to improve the customer experience. And they did it by directly leveraging the expertise of the people who know their data best. But they won't stop there. Next up for Sunrise is to use these profiles to provide a self-service capability on their public website so customers can look up their own information and update their contact preferences themselves. Because their data hub is backed by MarkLogic Server, a fully ACID-compliant transactional database, they're not limited to simply reading this profile data from the hub. They can store things like communication preferences, marketing opt-ins, and other important profile metadata directly in the hub. Later, they'll add more information, like policy details and claims history. This will let them figure out not just who their customers are, but who their best customers are, and to target these customers for cross-sell and upsell opportunities. Having this data readily available really got their creative juices flowing, and they're inventing new ways to use their data that they never considered before. Just last week, Belinda proposed a plan to use geocoded weather data to provide proactive alerts to customers ahead of adverse weather events like hailstorms to try to minimize damage to insured assets. Having ready access to relevant data has changed the way Sunrise thinks about their business. It has opened up new opportunities and empowered folks like Belinda to drive the digital transformation that will carry the business forward. The agility they get from being able to easily incorporate new data and new use cases makes this hub more than just another data silo. It's a durable data asset for the company, an ever-improving data utility that can be continually enhanced and repurposed to provide the data they need to adapt to threats and to leverage opportunities. So what can you do right now to bring this kind of agility to your organization? Well, you heard Gary earlier talk about a new Rapid Start offering from MarkLogic. This offering includes everything you need to solve your first business problem and start building your data utility. You bring your pressing data problem, and we'll bring the rest. Together, we can turn the Chamberlain curse into a blessing. Because whether it's 1854, 1884, or 2020, we are living in interesting times. It's up to all of us to drive the change we need to advance and grow and thrive. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandy Carter, and I'm Vice President at Amazon Web Services in charge of our public sector partners and programs. Thank you so much for having me today to speak at MarkLogic World 2020. I'm so excited to be here, and hopefully you are too. I have included my Twitter handle at the bottom of the slide, Sandy_Carter, because I know we're virtual, you can't ask me questions, but if you tweet out a question and you include that handle, I will make sure I respond to you, or you could reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. So let's go ahead and get started talking about innovation and how innovation is really driving disruption in today's world. I want to start out first with a quick little example taken from my personal life, of course. I have two daughters, and every Sunday we make pancakes. It's our tradition. Maybe you have one as well. So with these pancakes, my daughters brought me this picture, and they said, "Mom, could you make us this pancake?" And I said, "Of course I can make that pancake. That looks so super easy." And so I did. Now you're probably laughing right now because that doesn't look much like the picture that they gave me, but there's a couple of lessons around innovation that we can learn from this. First, this was an MVP, of course, right? And most MVPs don't really hone in on the user interface. Second, it was very customer obsessed. My daughters loved it. They posted pictures, much to my chagrin, to Instagram and everywhere else of this lovely pancake. And three, it was very usable because my customers ate it, my daughters, of course. So what I'd like to do is use this as kind of an example of how innovation happens, how we experiment. We may not do everything at the beginning. We're very curious and we try things out. And in fact, when I talk about innovation today, I'm really going to be talking about 4 types of innovation. I am an adjunct professor at Carnegie Mellon, Silicon Valley, and we did a piece of research looking at how innovation varies on a number of elements. But one of those was, how does it vary versus what we consider the meccas of innovation, like Silicon Valley or Israel? How does it vary? Well, in most other parts of the world, innovation is really about the product. And in Silicon Valley, of course, they innovate around the product too. But interestingly, these meccas of innovation also innovate around 3 other elements. The operational excellence. So for instance, maybe you use robotics. Client experience. So Gartner says that client experience is kind of the last form of true competitive advantage that exists in the marketplace. So how are you experimenting and innovating on your client experience? And the final one is business model. So think about one of Amazon Web Services customers, Airbnb, where they've experimented with the business model. Right? Who would have ever thought you could have a stay overnight without owning any inventory? Very, very successful. So as we're talking about innovation today, we're going to talk around those 4 areas, not just the one of product innovation. Now, for us, when we think about innovation, innovation is really and truly, when you boil it all down, it's really about empathy for your client. Because you can have something that's really cool, but if your client doesn't want it or use it, not really innovative in the fact of it being used. So there are 3 C's that we look at. The first is innovation that involves customer obsession. You're obsessing about your customers. The second is the culture that you need to really generate that culture of innovation that enables you to innovate. And the third is around your curiosity. How do you come up with some of these new ideas and ask questions to get to the right answer? So we're going to cover those 3 things today super quick. So if you have details, let me know. I could do this presentation in 3 or 4 hours, but we only have a few minutes that I want to try to walk you through some actionable items that you can take back. So if you think about innovation, we're thinking first about customer obsession. And the first thing you're probably thinking is everybody is customer obsessed, right? I've worked at many companies where we've been customer focused or customer driven, but I am truly talking here about customer obsession. That means actually talking to customers first, not thinking, well, this is a really cool technology. Let me implement with that technology, but thinking this is a really great customer idea. Let me figure out what technology I need for that idea. The very first service that I innovated at Amazon Web Services was called License Manager. And I personally talked to 141 customers and partners myself. That doesn't even include all of the other customers and partners that my team talked to as well. So if you're thinking about customer obsession, this is an example of what not to do. So this was actually a startup that produced these salt shakers. And I think they were very technology obsessed because they had IoT in it. There was a sensor that would sense when you picked up the salt shaker. It was connected to Alexa, so it actually could play music as you were salting your food. But wait, it also had artificial intelligence. So it remembered how much salt you used in the morning or the afternoon, and it also had a mobile device. So you used your phone to distribute your salt. Was this successful? No, not really, because it was technology obsessed. It used every single buzzword, probably got funded, but it wasn't successful from a customer's viewpoint. Now, let me give you another example. It is not a technology example, but it's an example from True Jerky, one of the best jerkies out there in the market. And one of the things that they found is customers really love their jerky, but it would get stuck in their teeth. And so, thinking about innovation and being customer obsessed, maybe the first thing you would think about is, do I change the product? Do I innovate on the product? But what these really cool product managers did is they said, you know what, customers love the product, but they have this problem. So can I solve the problem in a different way? Can I innovate slightly differently? And that's what they did. They put dental floss in every package. So whenever you eat jerky, after you eat it, you take your dental floss out and you floss. Solving the problem in a different fashion without making it just about the product, if you would. So when you think about that, the Amazon approach to innovation really enables you to get to the true way to solve a customer problem. The first step that we use is called working backwards from the customer. And it involves really talking to your customers themselves, not having it up on the wall that you're customer focused, but really exploring what your customers want. Think back to my example, talking to 141 customers and partners, really getting down into what they need. The second step that we look at is writing a press release. Now, you're probably thinking, wait a second, I don't do the press release till after the offering or the business model or the operational excellence is done. But we actually start with the press release. And at Amazon, that's really important because it enables you to frame on one page what you're trying to accomplish, what your goals are. You actually use real customer quotes because you've talked to so many customers by now that your customers know what you're doing, and so they're either going to buy in or not. It's really hard to write a one-pager about your innovation. In fact, Mark Twain said, I would have written a shorter book if I had had more time. And that's really the philosophy here. You have to get it all on one page. And then the final thing we do is we write a set of FAQs, frequently asked questions. I thought at first I could make up my own questions, but we have some really tough ones that you have to use, like, what would your customer love about this product if they were having lunch with you? What would they hate about it? What would they tell you they don't like about it at a bar at night? And, we've changed some interesting products. We started all over at the very beginning when we were like, wow, the customer really wouldn't like this. This is not acceptable. We have to go back to the beginning and figure out how to either make that easier or better for the customer. So after we do this, we really think about these particular questions. Who is the customer? It's not an industry. It's a person in the company. What is the problem that we're trying to solve? Not world peace, but what is the specific problem that we're trying to get across? What's the most important benefit? One, or two, no more. And how do you know what the customer needs? All of us have some sort of unconscious bias where we are sometimes driven to a solution because we think we already know the answer. And then, of course, what does the customer experience look like? On that first product that we talked about, we had very senior levels of AWS look at the wireframes and go through those because we really wanted to know, is this going to be easy enough? Is this going to be a great experience for our customers? So being customer obsessed is so important. And one of the reasons we love MarkLogic as a partner is that they follow that same customer obsession that we do. In fact, we partnered up together on a massive set of requirements with a very short timeline around healthcare.gov. And because we were so customer obsessed together working on those requirements, we were able to deliver a solution that the customer loved, that was able to scale, that had great performance, and that had lower cost as well, and savings for the customer. Being customer obsessed means really starting with your customer. You're not trying to sell something, you're trying to add value. And that's what MarkLogic and AWS did with healthcare.gov. So let's go on to our second area, which is about culture. Now, it's interesting. I was teaching a class at Carnegie Mellon, Silicon Valley, and one of my students raised their hand and they said, Mrs. Carter, what is culture? And I had to really think about it because you assume you know. And I said, culture is the way you do things around here. It's really about what are the elements that you do, the lessons you want a new hire to know that are important enough that you're going to pass them down, that you're going to tell the story. For example, when I first started with Amazon Web Services, I was given a desk, and the desk was a door. And I was asking people, why do I have a door for a desk? Well, the story is that Jeff Bezos, when he started, he couldn't afford a desk. So he created a desk out of a leftover door he had at his home. And it taught the leadership principle of being frugal, a lesson to be learned from my desk. And that's what culture is about. It's software of the mind. It's what you want every new hire to know and to experience in your company. So one of the mindsets that you would like to have in an innovative culture is not that failure is not an option, but that failure is a good thing, that you're going to learn from the failure. You're going to start small. You're going to experiment. You're going to fail fast. One of my most memorable events that I actually wrote a blog about during my first couple of months at Amazon is I attended a meeting. And in that meeting, they had 3 people get up and talk about their failures, talk about what they learned. And one gentleman, I still remember, talked about failing, teaching others how not to fail that way, saving the company a lot of money because he had made the first mistake, discovered it, and learned from it. I had never worked at a company that celebrated your failures in that fashion, showcased the learnings from them. That's what an innovative culture is really about. The second element of an innovative culture that at Amazon we practice is a 2-pizza team. So what's a 2-pizza team? I love this because a 2-pizza team is a team that's big enough if you have to work late one night that you can only eat 2 pizzas. The principles are is that team is empowered. It's got autonomy. They can make decisions. They're single-threaded. It allows Amazon Web Services to move really rapidly. And in fact, before I came to Amazon, I was running my own startup. And people ask me, how did you go from running your own startup to this ginormous company? Well, because Amazon has all of these 2-pizza teams, it's not like we're one giant company. It's like we're a bunch of startups that are all working towards a common goal. Very powerful in terms of your innovative culture. One of the reasons I really love what's happening with MarkLogic, and they really saw what was happening in the environment. And they said, could we, with our innovative culture, create this DataHub service on AWS to enable the virtual world and digital transformation by asking all the right questions? And because they had this culture of innovation and customer obsession, they were able to deliver this DataHub service, which you guys are using today and runs on AWS. Another great example of the innovative nature of MarkLogic. Another example of a 2-pizza team is our overall partner network. It's called the Amazon Partner Network. And stories have been told of how it started. It started with a 2-pizza team. Now it's the largest partner network for any cloud vendor in the world. But it started small with the 2-pizza team. Still has a bunch of 2-pizza teams continuing to innovate and to breed more of that culture and that DNA, not just for us, but for our partners like MarkLogic as well. So the next part of an innovative culture is how you make decisions. And I have to tell you, this was one of the hardest ones for me to learn. So why is that? Well, everybody thinks about being an innovative company means that you move really fast. And that is true. That's called a 2-way door. You move really rapidly when you can make a decision and you can change it if you made the wrong decision. Think about, your website is red, you change it to blue, and you want to test that out. That's a 2-way door. In fact, most decisions are 2-way doors. So when I worked at my startup, we were always making rapid decisions, moving very quickly. At other companies, very large companies, though, we didn't move so quickly. We treated every decision as if it was a 1-way door decision, meaning that if I walked through that door and made that decision, I couldn't easily step it back. So think about, maybe changing an API, right? If I changed an API, all my customers changed, and then I said, I didn't want to do that, backed it out. That would cause the customer a lot of pain. So a lot of companies will say everything's a 2-way door, move fast, 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 or every decision is a 1-way door. We're going to move slow, 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 slow. But in Amazon, we constantly evaluate, is this a 1-way door or a 2-way door decision? And based on what we decide, that's the speed with which we go. That was why it was hard for me, because in the past, I'd either move slow, 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 or fast, 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 fast. Now I have to mix it up. Fast, 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 slow. Fast, 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 slow. And it really works. It makes you really think about your decisions in a different way and cause you to pause at the right moment. Redfin CTO Bridget Fry, an amazing CTO and leader, had a decision that she was going to make as she started to create the Redfin estimator. Redfin, as you probably know, is disrupting the real estate market. In fact, it's really valuable right now as they can do virtual tours, and they work with real estate agents, sellers, and buyers, but basically everything is done online. One of the new innovations that they had thought about was this estimator to really be able to tell you the value of your home. That's important to a bank, to the real estate agent, to the seller, and the buyer. But as Bridget thought about this decision of building this function, she said, is that a one-way door or a two-way door? Well, if I say your house is worth $200,000 today and $1 million tomorrow, that breaks trust with our customers. So this is definitely a one-way door decision. So she and her team slowed down, hired data scientists, gathered a lot of customer feedback, and were able to get this service up using artificial intelligence with some of the most accurate estimating that is done in the market today. Thinking through one-way door or two-way door. Okay, so you're here for our third and final area, and this is around curiosity. It's one of my very favorites. A friend of mine who's a professor at Stanford did a lot of research about great innovators. Think about Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Steve Jobs when he was around. And she looked at all the characteristics of these great innovators. And she found a couple, but the one that I thought was really interesting is they were curious. They asked a lot of questions. So she even dug deeper and found that preschool students, preschool children, if you have one, you know what I mean, they ask hundreds of questions a day. What color is the sky? Why is that cloud there? Why is it white? What's going? They're asking questions all the time, especially as we're working virtually today and you have them at home with you doing homeschooling. Adults, on average, though, only ask 10. Unless you are that Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, then you ask 100 like children. So what are the questions that you're not asking? In fact, when we at Amazon Web Services read a narrative, that's how we present ideas, after we read it, all we do is ask questions. And through those questions, we garner more understanding. We provoke new ideas. It is a great way, leveraging that curiosity, learning and being curious to drive innovation. So let me give you an example. So AWS Deep Racer, which is a race car. You can see it here. It's 1/18 the size of a real race car. It's got IoT sensors in it. It's driven by inference machine learning. We decided to ask questions about what do customers need in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Well, one of the main things that kept coming up were skills. So if we just ask, okay, well, how can you get trained? How do you get skilled up? Your normal response would be classes, more certifications, easier classes, more teachers to get more skills. But we said, what if you could learn in a different way that would enable every programmer, every developer to be skilled in machine learning and AI? That's really what we need. That's the level of skills. So we came up with this little Deep Racer car. Anybody, an 8-year-old to, my grandmother, could figure out how to do machine learning, race it on a track, and even today in the virtual world, we're doing virtual tracks in basements, and learn machine learning as you're doing that. Thinking about and asking questions so many times that you come up with very innovative and unique ways to solve the problem. So if you think about how you might ask the right questions, I have another example from MarkLogic as well as AWS. And one of the things that we were trying to figure out is, how could we solve our customers' problem? How could we leverage perhaps some of the things that they need, more power, more flexibility, more user ease? How could we do that for customers who have AWS? And so we leveraged our AWS Glue with the DataHub service that we talked about earlier, asking different questions and the right questions to come up with a solution that was the most powerful one for customers like yourselves in the marketplace today. So if you think about it, as you're asking those questions, how do you get different questions to come out? Well, diversity is really a core key area. And I know it's kind of, some people say it's hip and cool to be diverse, but I would say it's also a strong business outcome. It is the right thing to do, but it leads to great business outcomes because you then look like your customer. And I think more importantly, you're asking the right questions because people have a different mindset. They ask different questions because they come from different backgrounds. It's diversity of thought. There are so many studies that prove that diversity leads to greater innovation. This one's from McKinsey. It shows that you can get more market segment share by having a diverse team. You're more likely to capture new markets by having this diverse team. It really is more powerful and more innovative when you have that diversity. In fact, one example that I often talk about is we had a team, and that team looked diverse. Like if you looked at them, gender diversity, cultural diversity, racial diversity, but their output wasn't as innovative as other teams, so we couldn't figure it out. Well, it turns out the entire team came from the same MBA school, trained on the same frameworks, the same way of thinking. So as you're thinking about diversity, there are so many different angles, and the more diverse, the more different people you have, the better your questions, the better your innovations, the better your disruptions, the better you can serve your clients, which I know is what all of you want to do. Here's a great example, Anina Net. So she was discovered at 13 to be a model, been on covers of magazines. What she really wanted to do, though, was to be a coder. So she started her own company called 360 Fashion Network. And being curious, asking questions, how are people, when they go out, how are they typically accosted? Or could she help women who are out in the streets or at universities stop from being, assaulted? And as she worked backwards from the customer, she found that most people attack from the back. So you want to be able to touch something on your hands while you're trying to get them away. So she created this IoT fashion ring. So it looks really beautiful, as you can see in the picture. And what you do is all you have to do is press it and hold down on it for a while, and it will call the police or someone that you want to come to try to help you. Provides you a way to get help. I think this is so innovative and so creative. She also did this dress that you're seeing here that moves as you move, it changes color. So she's just thinking outside the box. Her dress really disrupted the fashion industry a couple of years ago. Why is that? Well, she is a female founder. She's got such a diversity of gender, ethnicity, culture, different ways of thinking, technologists, fashion. It is just such a diverse team that she gets the best and probably some of the most innovative ideas that I've seen in the marketplace today. This is another startup. It's called Mojo Lenses. And what they've got is they've got a lens that you can look out of and see everything that was on your screen. Now, why is that important? Well, first of all, the customer challenge was if you work in hospitality or you're in Department of Defense, you don't want to be carrying a tablet around. It would be really great if you could just look and blink and get to the right types of information. And so having this diverse team, they were able to create a lens that you can see things. Here the example is looking out in the street and seeing reviews about which restaurant you might want to go to. Again, diversity breeds innovation, drives innovation, helps you get you to the right next step. So as we come to a close, I'm going to end where I began. Innovation is about empathy. It's about having empathy for your customer, for your client, really trying to understand them. First C is customer obsession, truly obsessing over your customer, not having it up on the wall, but really understanding what your customer needs. Having a culture, creating a culture that allows you to fail, allows you to experiment, to work in small teams, and having that curiosity to ask a lot of questions, because by asking those questions, you come up with the right product, the right solution, the right business model, the right operational excellence in both this time of crisis as well as in, hopefully, the new normal as well. So I want to end with you with this riddle. I really love this riddle. It says that a lily pad doubles in size every day. So on let's say day 1, there are 2 lily pads. On day 2, there are 4 lily pads. So if on the 60th day, The pond is filled with lily pads. On what day was the pond half full? Now, I know you guys have lots of great math geniuses out there. So of course it's on day 59 because the pond will double with lily pads and be full on day 60. So what does that have to do with our story? Well, I think today, with everything going on, people moving faster to the cloud, people approaching digital transformation in ways we've never seen before because of what's going on in the environment. Now is the time to take action. You're sitting there, you're looking at the pond, and it's half full. But tomorrow it's going to be full. It's not just going to add a few more. It's going to be full. So I want you to move and take action now. Don't overanalyze it. Take some of these lessons. Try doing a press release with your team. Try testing out some of those questioning techniques. Try looking at your culture and adding in maybe experimentation or smaller teams. Try something and see the great results that you're going to get. I know that we're all experiencing times that we've never experienced before. We don't have a blueprint for it. I want you guys to stay safe and healthy, but to be innovative. If I can help you in any way possible, I would be happy to do that. Again, my name is Sandy Carter with AWS, our public sector partners and programs, and I'm thrilled to be invited and to have the honor, the true honor, of speaking with you today at MarkLogic. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to MarkLogic World Fireside Chat. I'm Denise Miura, VP of APAC in Japan, and I'm here to interview our founder, Christopher Lindblad. Hi, Christopher. How are you?
Hi, Denise. I'm doing okay.
I don't see a fireplace now. I know you have one. Why wouldn't you have the foresight to position yourself? And this is our first chance to actually have a fire at our fireside chat, and you totally blew it. So I just want to come out the gate complaining.
Today is such a beautiful day. It's really nice outside, so I don't think I would have a fire in my fireplace, and maybe a poolside chat or a patio chat might have been a different thing. So
sounds nice. We're in the middle of rainy season here in Tokyo, so I envy you that. All right. Speaking of enviable, let's talk about DataHub Service. You know, there's been a lot of great buzz about it. We've seen a lot of uptake this year. And since I'm talking to you and still very much our chief architect, I'm curious to know what have been some of the challenges on the technical side in implementing DataHub Service, and what do you think some of the key advantages are that have come out of the way that you've chosen to implement the service?
Yeah. Let me first by sort of saying what we really set out to do with DataHub Service. And what we're really setting out to do is take all the capability that we have with MarkLogic Server and be able to provide it as kind of a database service to really simplify the management of it, so you don't need to buy a bunch of computers and install MarkLogic on it and make sure it's running and keep it all backed up. Is really to take a lot of that and automate it, and instead as a data sort of for doing data management, you should really focus on managing your data. And so with that, what we've really set out to do is what can we automate that's not automated already? The provisioning of compute instances on a cloud, the provisioning of storage. And so we've been really working hard at automating that, making that as smooth as possible, as efficient as possible, and as fast as possible. So when you ask for a MarkLogic cluster, a MarkLogic Data Hub, we actually provision on the cloud provider a network to run the cluster, storage to store the data, compute instances for running MarkLogic Server, and a gateway in front so you can talk to it. We do all these things in a scripted, automated way, so it just happens in a matter of minutes instead of months. And one thing that we certainly want to do is, because we can provision these cloud resources in a matter of minutes instead of months. Why don't we make it automatically fit to the amount of work you need to do? So another aspect that we've really added to MarkLogic is to size the compute resources running MarkLogic to exactly the size of the problem that you have. As you load more data, we'll hit a threshold where it may be, well, we need to make give you more storage and maybe more compute to run MarkLogic, and it should all be transparent and automatic to you. Similarly, on the query side, as you do different times a day, as you do more query workload than others, we should be able to automatically allocate the resources. And what's the advantage of that is then you're basically paying for what you use, and you really get the most. We can really get the most out of a cloud service where we have this automatic provisioning. So that's what's kind of pretty excited from my point of view. From the things that I think about is what can I do to make a MarkLogic cluster be created and managed automatically.
So definitely, it sounds like you've designed the service to be very consumption model friendly, and we know those type of economics and simplifications are driving people towards this model and moving data to the cloud. What about those folks who are hesitating because it's scary to give up control of their data in their own data center and to give up managing the security aspects of that data? What would you say to those folks who are hesitating on that front?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't hesitate. We've over the years we've built in many security features into MarkLogic, and all those features are used and when we run the MarkLogic DataHub service. Furthermore, we're using all of the security mechanisms that the cloud provider has, techniques as virtual private clouds, encrypted storage. We're using all that. When we provision a MarkLogic cluster on the cloud provider, is we create a VPC for each individual customer, and we provision storage. We make sure the storage is encrypted. We make sure the network connections are private, and then on top of that, we use the MarkLogic security features. We use secure socket, secure network connections between all our hosts. We also use encryption at rest to store our data in an encrypted manner on top of the cloud provider. So I am absolutely confident that the data DHS is a very secure implementation.
And of course, a lot of the things you've just described, we didn't build only recently for DataHub Service. You're leveraging things that have been part of the server architecture for many years and have been proven in our customer base. Because we've been here a long time. You and I have been doing fireside chats since 2007, to be exact. And we've seen a lot of different technologies come and go. And recently in the market, we, folks like Snowflake and Databricks are making a lot of noises about being data hubs. What do you say to that?
I'm actually kind of pretty excited about the wide spectrum. There's a pretty big spectrum of data services, and each one of these services seems to have a unique capability and a unique use case. I think Snowflake as a data warehouse is really great. It has a simple model. You load your data, you can do your queries. And that's great for that use case. And it may actually be a good thing to be doing with data extracted from MarkLogic. MarkLogic, we really see as a multi-model database system used for data integration. We have a lot of these capabilities, it's a little bit different than what I would say that what a simple data warehouse does. With Databricks, I see Databricks as more of a toolbox or a set of tools for doing data analysis, particularly for machine learning. And that's also a particular use case that is interesting. But still, I think of MarkLogic as a data integration tool. The fact that we have this wide variety of index models, that we're a document database. We also do search, and we have relational model, and that we have a semantic model. A lot of these tools that we have for the problems that we go at, I still think we're a pretty good and a unique combination for doing really the use cases that we're best at.
So you can tell me if I'm wrong. When I'm out in the field and it comes up, I try to explain to customers, MarkLogic is a data hub where you're going to curate and securely manage your data, and then tools like Snowflake or Databricks and others are really just downstream consumers potentially of that data that's being managed centrally and securely. Is that the right answer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we could see them as consumers of data that has been curated coming out of MarkLogic.
I'm relieved. There's no shortage of memories of me coming to you, testing an answer, and you telling me how very wrong I was. So that was a good one. What's next? What are you most excited about in the product right now? Where are we going? Where are we taking this next?
Well, I think that we've had a long tradition at MarkLogic for building really powerful tools and really powerful indexing capabilities and a really scalable database. But what I'm particularly excited right now is our DataHub Central. And what that is really providing a front-end suite of tools with a common interface that's accessible for really accessing that power without having to do a lot of programming. And so I'm pretty excited about DataHub Central. We've talked a little bit about it today, but I really see it as having a long runway of being able to really make the power of MarkLogic available in what we call the low code or no code is really all the tasks that we do when we're building, integrating and curating data in a data hub is let's really figure out how to do that, sort of a common way of doing that so that it's much easier. And that's what I think DataHub Central is great at.
Excellent. That's the end of my questions today. You weren't very snarky. I think people are going to be disappointed that you didn't say anything controversial. There's no one you want to offend out there, or any crazy to make today?
I can't really say right now. So.
Oh my God. All right. Well, too bad we can't all meet at the bar and hear the real story.
Yeah.
Maybe
virtually.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Christopher. Always a pleasure to interview you, and I'll talk to you again next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for attending MarkLogic World 2020, our first virtual MarkLogic World ever. As I mentioned early on, it was going to be our biggest conference, and it has. It had the same content. It had MarkLogic employees, and most importantly, you had the opportunity to hear from our customers and our partners. I hope you enjoyed the day. MarkLogic World, though, it doesn't end there. There's a rich, vast amount of content, and I'm really pleased to announce MarkLogic TV. MarkLogic TV is an information platform built, not surprisingly, on MarkLogic DataHub Service. And what is it? It's a wealth of content and information from MarkLogic engineers, from MarkLogic marketing people, from our customers and people that use the technology, and from our partners. There's a wealth of information back available to you. I'd encourage you to join and take advantage of MarkLogic TV. You will be getting a link in your email as a follow-up to the conference, and I hope you'll enjoy MarkLogic TV and continuing the experience that started with the virtual conference. My thanks for attending MarkLogic World. Have a great day. Thank you very much.